Receiving direct knowledge or perception of the future, precognition, is another common psi ability with a long-standing history. Precognition is usually achieved through prophetic dreams, during deep meditation, or spontaneously received as images in the mind's eye. The existence of this paranormal ability, however, once again goes against the Newtonian grain and strikes close to the heart of people's conceptions of time and free will, because if precognition is real, then the future must in some sense be pre-written and determined. Albert Einstein wrote, "Time is not at all what it seems. It does not flow in only one direction, and the future exists simultaneously with the past. The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubborn, persistent illusion." David Bohm wrote, "Both in common experience and in physics, time has generally been considered to be a primary, independent, and universally applicable order, perhaps the most fundamental one known to us. Now we have been led to propose that it is secondary, and that, like space, it is to be derived from a higher dimensional ground, as a particular order." And Ervin Laszlo wrote, "When asked to define time, the physicist John Wheeler once replied that time is what stops everything from happening at once. Scientists are still searching for a good definition, because the problem of time is that it doesn't appear to exist." I have personally experienced precognition on a few occasions, but none as amazing or memorable as the following. During college, I had what seemed to be a normal dream, involving myself and my friend wearing our typical attire, talking outside my dorm about what we wanted to do that day. Now, I didn't remember even having the dream until the next day, as my friend and I were approaching my dorm. Every word she said started triggering the clearest, most mind-blowing déjà vu as the dream came flooding back to me. We were both wearing the same clothes I'd envisioned. We were standing in the same place, and every word she said was exactly as I had dreamt. Seizing the opportunity to test and manifest this amazing clarity of déjà vu I was experiencing, I quickly blurted out the entire next sentence that I knew she would be saying, and matched her word for word in real time. Stunned at my simultaneous telepathic mocking, she abruptly stopped talking, and I laughed uncontrollably, trying to explain the whole thing. That and other precognitive experiences forever changed my perception of the arrow of time. If time is truly linear, then we can only remember the past, and cannot in any way remember the future. But if it is impossible to remember the future, then what was my dream? How was I able to vividly see and remember the entire scenario in precise detail the night before it happened? I guarantee anyone who felt my paradigm-crushing déjà vu would agree that this synchronicity was far beyond some quirky coincidence. Michael Talbot wrote, "Even our most ancient writings pay homage to the premonitory power of dreams, as is evidenced in the biblical account of Pharaoh's dream of 7 fat and 7 lean cows. The proximity the unconscious mind has to the atemporal realm of the implicate may also play a role. Because our dreaming self is deeper in the psyche than our conscious self, and thus closer to the primal ocean in which past, present, and future become one, it may be easier for it to access information about the future." David Icke wrote, "One near-death experiencer described what he saw once the filter of human perception was lifted. He talked of seeing the panoramic view of life, everything from the beginning, my birth, my ancestors, my children, my wife, everything comes together simultaneously. I saw everything about me, and about everyone who was around me. I saw everything they were thinking now, what they thought then, what was happening before, what was happening now. There is no time. There is no sequence of events, no such thing as limitation, of distance, of period, of time, of place. I could be anywhere I wanted to be, simultaneously." President Lincoln dreamt of his own assassination a week before he died. British aeronautics engineer J.W. Dunn documented several prophetic dreams come true in his 1927 book, An Experiment with Time. There are even 19 documented cases of people who precognitively saw the sinking of the Titanic, some by passengers who acknowledged their premonitions and survived, others by passengers who ignored their intuition and drowned, and others still by non-passengers. Swedish scientist and mystic Emanuel Swedenborg had a gift for precognition and documented many independently verified examples. One evening, on June 19, 1759, upon arriving at a dinner party in Göteborg, Swedenborg had a vision of Stockholm burning 300 miles away. He told everyone in attendance, including the mayor, about the blazing fire and that it had stopped only 3 doors from his home. The next day, a messenger from Stockholm arrived and confirmed Swedenborg's incredible vision. Dutch psychic Gerard Croiset was well known for the several chair tests he accurately predicted. First, the experimenter randomly selected a chair from the seating plan of some upcoming public event in a large theater, stadium, or auditorium anywhere in the world. There could be no reserved seating to prevent possible collusion or trickery. Then, without telling him the name, the location, or the event, knowing only the date and the seating plan, Croiset consistently gave accurate and detailed descriptions of the people who would be sitting in any given chair. Over the course of 25 years, numerous investigators in Europe and America were stunned by Croiset's accurate predictions, including specifics like gender, dress, features, occupation, and personality. Michael Talbot wrote, for instance, on January 6, 1969, in a study conducted by Dr. Jule Eisenbud, a clinical professor of psychiatry at the University of Colorado Medical School, Croiset was told that a chair had been chosen for an event that would take place on January 23, 1969. Croiset, who was in Utrecht, Holland, at the time, told Eisenbud that the person who would sit in the chair would be a man 5 feet 9 inches in height, who brushed his black hair straight back, had a gold tooth in his lower jaw, a scar on his big toe, who worked in both science and industry, and sometimes got his lab coat stained by a greenish chemical. On January 23, 1969, the man who sat down in the chair, which was in an auditorium in Denver, Colorado, fit Croiset's description in every way but one. He was not 5 feet 9, but 5 feet 9 3/4. Psi researcher Dean Radin highlighted the interesting case of Anne Ring in his Entangled Minds book. She sent him the following in a letter. Many years ago, I had a very strange dream concerning my father. I dreamt that he was decorating the house, the way we do in England, or used to, with paper chains, holly, etc., except the decorations he was using were not the type used for Christmas. Suddenly, he sat down on a chair and collapsed, and he died. I woke up crying so loudly that it woke up my husband. I looked at the clock, and it was exactly 2 a.m. California time. I told my husband the dream, and he just said, "Well, it's nothing. You are always having strange dreams. Go back to sleep." But the dream had disturbed me, and it took a long while for me to get back to sleep. The following morning was Thanksgiving Day, and as I was preparing the meal, the telephone rang, and it was my brother, calling from London, to say my father had died. It was a terrible shock because I had seen him in May of that year, and he was in robust health. In fact, he had not ever been ill or in hospital in his life. I asked my brother when it had happened, and he replied that our stepmother had just called him and told him it had happened at 10 a.m. London time, the exact moment that I had the dream, 2 a.m. California time. By the way, he was putting up decorations because it was his wedding anniversary to my stepmother, and they were going to have a party that night. Dean Radin wrote, "How shall we interpret this experience? Is it a poignant coincidence, or is it a case of genuine clairvoyance? This was the one and only time Mrs. Ring ever had a dream like this, and it contained details and timings that matched real-world events. I've been told similar experiences by professors at major universities, by program directors at the NSF, and by generals in the Army. These are not naive people prone to fantasy. They appreciate the difference between meaningless coincidence and genuinely exceptional events."